So what the hell's wrong with our trucking industry? Well, to be honest, there's a whole lot wrong with it. And some of the stuff may never be fixed. But in this video, I'm going to tell you 5 of the things I think are most broken in the industry. And the good news is there are some workarounds, some solutions to these problems. At the end of this video, I've got a little story about a guy that didn't follow some of the rules and the mess that he's in today.
This video is brought to you by GP Transco. They are a mid-sized carrier out of Illinois and are the 3rd highest paying carrier in the nation currently. They hire from all states and run in all states. So if you want to get paid well and be treated with respect, check them out at their website at gptransco.com or give them a call now.
The first thing that's broken in our industry is truck driver training. Now, there are all sorts of CDL schools out there these days, but most of them teach just enough so the guys and girls can get their license. And that's not nearly enough. They should be teaching people to drive the truck, not just enough to get past. There's no backing or hardly any backing up teaching. There's no winter driving teaching. There's no mountain driving teaching. They just give these guys a course in a parking lot. They get their license and they throw them out in the road. And that's just wrong. And that's not the way it used to be. It used to be you would drive with an older guy for months. Now, some of the schools still do that, but they're training with guys that have 3 months or 6 months experience on the road, which is not nearly enough to be out there. You need experienced trainers. There are no regulations for how long a trainer have to have been driving before he can go into teaching. That's just crazy. The whole thing is broken. The whole thing is backward. So the first thing that's wrong is the way we're training new drivers. Now, the FMCSA has known that this is a problem for over 20 years, yet they keep delaying the standardized method of training that they keep promising to introduce. Well, they haven't done it yet. It was supposed to be out this year, and now they've set it back another 2 years. So it's clearly not a priority for them, but it certainly should be. If you're interested in more in truck driver training, check the link below. It goes to our website. Have a look at that. The current pay-by-the-mile system is an antiquated system. It's basically a piecework system. Now, years ago, when that was a standard in our industry, it was all right because the mileage rate that they paid was keeping up to the cost of living. There weren't nearly the delays the drivers experienced back then that there are now. The traffic, for instance, wasn't anywhere near where it is these days. And that's part of the reason that this pay system is antiquated. It doesn't allow for delays, and it doesn't pay for delays. So because the cost of living has gone up, because the traffic is impossible to predict, you run into weather delays, shipper and receiver at the dock delays. Some of those are 8, 10, 12 hours or more, and guys aren't being paid for that. So the pay system needs to be redone. Pay by the hour is really the only fair way to pay truck drivers anymore. That way you're compensated for all your time. Now, most over-the-road carriers are governed under the Motor Carrier Act of 1980, which is the antiquated system, because it doesn't allow for guys to be paid for everything they do. And part of the problem with this system, and this is the system that most over-the-road carriers like, by paying by the mile, is because it gives them a huge advantage. They don't have to pay their people for all of their time. The best way to get away from this is to work for a carrier or a private fleet or run local for a company that's governed under the Fair Labor Standards Act. That way you're usually paid by the mile, you've got benefits, you've got a pension plan, that type of thing. It's a far better system to work under. So get away from the over-the-road carriers that pay by the mile. Find a company or a carrier that works under the Fair Labor Standards Act. That's the way to go these days. Again, for more on this, check the link below and go to our website. Overregulation in the trucking industry has been a problem for years, and that stems from a few different areas. It stems from politicians making rules where they don't really understand the industry. They're influenced by these special interest groups like the ATA or the Shippers Coalition, people that are trying to maneuver the system to make more money. And that's really what it's all about. Look at the ELD mandate, for instance. It was a well-intentioned bill, but it had no flexibility built into it. The ending result being that drivers would run out of hours at the shipper, for instance, and not being able to move. It's a foolish system, and it's just overregulation. They should just give truck drivers more leniency, more flexibility to be able to maneuver the system themselves, to be able to complete their jobs, to be more efficient at what they do. And that's been a big problem in trucking, is overregulation. Parking has been a huge issue in the trucking industry for a number of years now. The Federal Highway Administration estimates that they have about 3 million trucks on the road in the U.S. today, and parking spaces for only 300,000. That means, in essence, virtually every night you've got 2,700,000 trucks that can't find a safe place to park. So the solutions are, for a truck driver, well, you can either keep going and run over your hours and get a ticket, or you can park illegally and get a ticket. And if you run over your hours and cause an accident, the truck driver's in a world of hurt. Now, the industry, the government as well, has relied on private investment, basically, to create parking for truckers. They rely on the truck stops, but paving, parking, and purchasing land and stuff like that, making parking spaces is hugely expensive. And you can't throw this burden on the truck stops altogether. Truck stops want people to come in, use their services, and then keep going. They don't want to be a huge rest area. It's not their problem. If the government can't manage that, they've got to ease up on the regulations, because you've got to have a safe place to park. So the government needs to create safe parking for all the truck drivers. Simple as that. Statistics today show the average life expectancy of an over-the-road truck driver is 62 years old. That's not very old. That's my age, roughly. The problem has existed for a long time because there's lack of exercise, complete lack of exercise. Everyone now can only afford to eat fast food. You know that's not good for you. And there's stress. There's huge stress in this job, and people don't appreciate that. There's the stress of being away from your family. There's the stress of having to obey all the rules and regulations. There's the stress of having this 34-hour mandated reset. It's not even a full weekend that you get to spend relaxing or spending time with your family. Stress has become a huge problem in this trucking industry, and it all boils down to not a very nice lifestyle for not a whole lot of money. That's something that's been broken for years. And the only way to get out of that cycle is to lead a healthier life by not running over the road. Something that allows you to get home every night, get a decent night's sleep, have 3 square meals a day, and live a normal life rather than this over-the-road lifestyle that's killing us all early. On top of all this, there's the stress of the job itself. Truck driving is listed as one of the top 10 most dangerous jobs in the United States. It's more dangerous than being a police officer. There's an awful lot of stress. You're worrying about causing an accident, you're worried about driving the truck in bad weather conditions, and the consequences of making a mistake can be monumental. You can end up in jail for just one simple mistake, one blink of an eye misjudgment. It's a dangerous situation, and there's a lot of stress created from that. Most people don't appreciate how dangerous a job truck driving can be. In a split second, you can cause a loss of life, your own or someone else's. In spite of all these things, a CDL is still a valuable credential to have. There are good paying jobs, good truck driving jobs out there, but they won't come to you. You've got to go out there and find them. A truck driving career, though, needs to be managed. You've got to avoid the pitfalls, get the best job you possibly can, and manage your career throughout your career. There are too many sharks in this industry, and they'll try to take advantage of you if they can. That's why we're here at Smart Trucking. We want drivers not only to just survive in this industry, but thrive in this industry and have a good career and a good living for themselves. We've answered thousands of comments over the years, and we cater our videos and our live streams to answer your specific questions. Our goal is to help you succeed. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any of our uploads that will help your career. Usually our story at the end is about something that's happened that's kind of funny or lighthearted, but today's story is about a guy who did not navigate his career well and now is paying the price. Let me tell you the story of Tim Wheatley. Tim Wheatley is a driver, or was a driver, down in Tennessee. This first mistake he made was to lease a truck from the trucking company he was going to work for, AAA or something like that, out of Tennessee. The second mistake he made was to agree to haul just-in-time freight. Whose freight was it? Amazon's, the people that just have to have you receive your package the next morning from no matter where it's coming from. And I'm all against that kind of trucking. So he leases the truck from AAA. He's agreed to haul Amazon freight, and the third mistake he makes is that he just tosses the rule book right out and agrees to run out of the hours of service against the regulations. He knows it's wrong, but they force him into do it, and he falls for it. He should have just walked away. The moment they told him they needed him to violate the hours of service, he should have just said, "Take your truck back, I quit." But he didn't, and he was pressured, and he was trying to do the right thing for his trucking career, but he made those mistakes. What happened? They pressured him into one too many loads. He tried to refuse it. They forced him into do it, or talked him into doing it. He fell asleep at the wheel, rolled his truck. So he's out of a truck driving job. He's got to pay for the leased truck that he wrecked. And now he's going to try to take them all to court and sue them and win. Well, good luck with that, Tim, and I hope it works out for you. But the moral of the story is not to put yourself in this situation in the first place. You don't want to be leasing a truck. You don't want to be running for hours and hours out of service, and you don't want to be hauling just-in-time freight. All of these things, all of these factors go against your physical potential and common sense as a truck driver. And here's a guy that's learned a hard lesson the wrong way. And it could have been even worse for Tim. When he flipped the truck over and went off the road, he could have killed himself, or he could have killed other people around him in cars. Really, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. It's stories like this that make you want to manage your career successfully, rather than being bullied by a carrier or a shipper or something like that. We want to see you do this safely. Take care. Keep the rubber side down, and we'll see you on the backhaul.